everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's InsideAgameR. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and today we're going to be looking at a full flight tutorial for the brand new CRJ released from Aerosoft today. I've literally just come off a live stream and a few people have asked me would I do a quick tutorial on how to kind of fly the aircraft, show them how the systems kind of work. So that's exactly what we're doing. Now I want to stress that I'm not a real world pilot. I've been simming for a long time for fun. I don't know all these systems in and out. I might miss things, I might do things in what you would call the incorrect order. But what I will show you is very simply for beginners how to get this up in the air, flying, following your flight plans, FMC, ILS landings, and that's basically what we're going to be looking at today. So we are doing a flight from Gatwick to Manchester, very, very short flight. And what we're going to do, we're going to get straight into the cockpit and get straight into the tutorial because it's going to be quite a long one. Okay, now that we're in the cockpit, you can see there are systems on, and I'm going to tell you why. If you go to the EFB, we're going to flick it. We want to turn this on. That's basically what we want to do first. And you're going to come into your aircraft. Now, I have my default state as turnaround. If you have it on cold and dark, the only difference is up above here, this switch for your direct power. You can see that we're running on the batteries there. You'll have the ground power cart connected. That is the only difference here, okay? The only difference. So everything else is off and the way it should be. Now, what we're going to do first, and the first thing is you're going to make sure your chocks are in place. You're going to open your stairs because you want to open your stairs to let people in. And we can have a little look on the outside here. They've opened up nicely. And yeah, the modeling and stuff is really good in this aircraft. It's actually really nice to actually fly. Okay, what I'm going to do very quickly as well, just to tell you guys, if you want to, you can go on your checklist. Now, these are the proper checklists for the flight. Okay, so like I said, you can go through all of these if you want, but what I'm going to do is show you the quickest and fastest way to fly this aircraft. Okay, so first things first is that we're going to want to put on the APU. Now, it's quite early to put on the APU. You got two choices. You can put it on now, or you can do the FMC. So actually, just saying that, I think we'll do the FMC first. So we leave it on ground power, a little bit more realism to it. We are going to cut the cautions. That we have a lot of issues currently. As you can see, passenger doors, pressures, trims, dampeners, etc. But let's not worry about that too much. I think what we will do first is do the FMC. Now, I've made my flight plan via SimBrief. I'm not sure how this works if you preload the flight plan from Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have not tried that. I've always done my own. So what we're going to do is go and have a look at this. Okay, so this is your main page. This is the first page. What we need to do is align the position that we're in. So what you want to do is click on position in it. And you can see there we don't have this in yet. So if you just click on next page, which is here, and you just take one of these, copy and paste it, and then you're going to go previous page, and you're just going to pop it in there. That is your all set up now. So it knows exactly where we are. That's the position in it, okay? So it's perfect. Okay, so the next button we're going to press is now go into your flight plan, and we're going to type in this flight plan. So we're Egcc, and we're going to Egcc. I usually use this flight. It's a very good kind of learning flight for people. Okay, flight number. Okay, so what I'll do, InsideAgameR 001, as it's just a tutorial. It's no big deal what it is. You can put in your alternative. We're not going to put one in. It's not such a big deal at the moment. And that is all we need to do for this page for the second. I'm going to press execute. That is now the beginning of the flight plan. If you look up here, still nothing up here yet, and that is also fine. Okay, what we need to do next is you're going to go to your departure arrivals, and we will be leaving today runway 26 left, and our transition today is the LAM 6M. So again, we may have to go up and down here to find, or next page, sorry, to find the LAM 6. So don't use these arrows. Next page. My apologies. So find the LAM 6, and what I want to do now, you can see the executes come up. We just execute that. That is in. Okay. So as you can see, we actually now have a start of a flight plan. But that's all we have right now. Okay, so let's go to our flight plan. You can see nothing is changed here apart from the VI and 2 now. So we will be going from the LAM 6M to LAM. And if you were to look what SimBrief have given us, that's exactly right. LAM 6M to LAM, N57 to Wheeling, 2420 TNT, the day YN to a start into Manchester. Okay, so we want to go on to the next page. And you can see it's going to take us to the next waypoint after this SID. Okay, so after LAM, airways are always on the left, waypoints always on the right. So we're going to be taking the N57, like I just said. The reason why I always say this is a good tutorial flight because it's quite short for the flight plans. Then we're going to be going to Wheelin, W-E-L-I-N. Okay, let's pick that one up nicely. Do T420. And that's going to take us to TNT. Okay, so the day N2A, that is our star, so we stop there. Okay, so all you're going to do now is execute that. And you're going to go back to your departure arrivals. Click it twice. And you're going to go to your Egcc. Now, if you're up in the air, obviously you might put this in while you're at cruise. Or if you're using VATSIM, you're going to get this at a later date. But if you're just doing a practice flight, I suggest you do this now because there is a lot of things you need to control this aircraft up in the air. It's not quite as simple as flying a jet. So if you are just doing it as practice flights, I suggest just put it in now. One less thing to worry about. Okay, so we are going to be taking the ILS. So I don't see the ILS here yet that I want. We are taking the ILS 5 right. And like I've said before, we are taking the day N2A. So it's not here yet. Day N2A, here it is. Transition vectors, that's fine. MCT, I was actually hoping to have the direct. Yeah, we'll take direct, that's fine. And what we're going to do now is execute that. So, if we now go into our legs, we should see a whole flight plan here. We're going to check that in a second. Now, the one thing we need to check first is looking for discontinuities, okay? So we're going to go to our next page. Next page. Oh, okay, so we do have one. Okay, we got quite a few. So what I'm going to do is click TNT. I'm going to go back. And I can see it's already here. So I'm going to click it there and I'm going to execute. You see that I already have TNT again. So I'm just going to put that up here because it's the same thing and execute. There's no point having two of the same leg, okay? So there's a discontinuity here again. Now, one thing you always have to remember, if you just click on the one below it and move it up, there we go, and execute. That will sort them out, and there we go. We should be all well and good on this flight plan. If we click on legs, if we now go over to the left-hand panel here, so this panel does all your formats, your ranges, your nav sources, your burrow, your MDA for your minimums, etc. Okay, so what we're going to do, there's two toggles on here. You got the format one, which changes the format. And then we have the range on top, okay? So I'm going to bring that range in a little bit. Now, you're going to see here that this is a bit broken. Do not worry about this. So this will follow this out, this departure, and it will connect onto here. For some reason, this happens sometimes. Don't worry about it too much. So looking at this screen now, I'm just going to flick through my legs. Make sure it all connects up. It seems to be working at the moment. And yeah, all good. Again, there was a little bit of a break there, but it should be fine. It should just go to where it needs to go. I didn't see any other discontinuities there. Just the way it kind of is, I suppose. Okay, so make sure you change your source back. And that is fine. And I'm going to move that range in a little bit for now. Okay, so this is quite the longest part of the whole setup, really. So once we've done this, we need now to go into our performance page. And you can see here, you got your flex inits and stuff, flex temperatures. Do not worry about this. The flex temperature is not working on this aircraft. Well, it might be working, but I don't know how to calculate. There is no way to calculate it at the moment. So we will leave it like that. Now, the dude suggests about a 47, which is a normal flex temp. I'm just going to leave it at nothing. We will be doing a toga takeoff today. So not max power, just a toga, okay? And we'll talk about that once we get down to that part of it. So let's go into our performance in it. And you can see now we have to input all this stuff. Now, the one thing that we haven't done yet is actually set it all up. So now what we need to do is go to our left and we need to go to our performance page. Now we need to start adding our weights and stuff. So I'm just looking at my sim brief here next to me. Okay, so what you want to do is click here, change to 0 fuel weight, because otherwise you can add it in all yourself, but this is easier. So if you go click on 0 fuel weight, and you can see it here. 0 fuel weight today should be 240 according to SimBrief. So 23984 I think is pretty close. Our fuel for today is 3338. Okay, so we'll put 4 in there just to make sure. And yeah, so look, a little bit extra, that's fine. So what we now want to do is set payload in simulator. The aircraft is going to jiggle. It's now done what it needs to do. And we're now going to copy performance init data to FMS. We now go across. Oh, my dodgy camera manning skills. There we go. You can see everything is put in apart from our cruise altitude. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to scroll back in. I haven't actually set up custom cameras on this yet. I really need to. So today's cruise altitude is, so we need to put FL for your flight level. And it's very short today because we're not very high up. Flight level 190, so 19,000. And we're going to stick that in there and execute. Okay. You got 3 pages here. Go on to your next page. This is where you'd put in your wind temperatures and your winds. But for this tutorial, it's not that important, but you do get it just off your sim brief. And you just put it in here. That's all you need to do. And again here, your taxiing reserves, we do not have to touch this. Your estimated time of takeoff. We don't need to touch any of that stuff, okay? So what you're now going to go do is your Nav setup. Okay. Now one thing that we need to now do is actually go back over here. And you're going to see it's giving us a flaps 8, V1, VR, V2. Now you can put this all by yourself, or you can go set all. Okay, by setting all, if we now go back to our FMC, it's all going to be set the speeds that we want. Now the only thing here, the transitional altitude is incorrect, 5,000 out of here. So whatever your transitional altitude, wherever you're flying, just make sure you change that, execute that. We'll go to our next page, giving us our flight level. Our target speed is 300, that is fine. Mach 74, 290. Transitional altitude again, I think it's 6,000 going into Manchester. We'll put it up there and execute that. Again, that is all fine. So that is the FMC pretty much done and dusted. We're now fueled, and our FMC and flight plan apparently are working, but we'll check that now in a second. Okay, now we move up above. So first things first, emergency lighting arm. Smoking seatbelts, because we're now fueled and ready to kind of rock and roll. If we go down the flow here, all your electrical powers that are already on to automatic. You don't have to touch any of this stuff. We will throw on our beacon because we will be turning on our APU now in a second. And that's all we need to turn on here for the minute. This is your landing and your taxi lights, so that's all well and good. We will now turn on both fuel pumps. The bleed air is on automatic. We don't have to touch anything to do with that. And we can now put our hydraulics on as so. Now this one goes to auto, these ones go to on. I don't know why, don't know if it's a problem, but that's just what it does. Again, going down this side, everything is looking good. You can now put on your probes. Anti-ice we won't need for today's flight, I do not think. If you want to put on your dome lights, this is where you do that. And you can turn up the lights here as well, okay? So to start the APU, we need to press this one, the power fuel. Go down below, you're going to see that the APU has now become open, which is what we want, and we're going to click start and stop. And now what you're going to hear is the engine in the back kicking in, and we can now watch the APU turn itself on. Okay, while the APU is turning itself on, if we go down to change our borough, 1013 is what it is actually here at Gatwick anyways. That is correct. Just to go through it, this is how you would change it through here. DNH we'll talk about when we get up there. And nav source, you can see we want to make sure you're on FMS1. Otherwise your nav will not follow. If you have your format, so your nav source on VORs, FMS, the only time we're going to do the VOR is when we do our ILS landing, which we'll talk about once we're up in the air. But yeah, so make sure you're just on FMS1. That's very important, otherwise it will not follow the flight plan. You've got your V speeds here, which is good. We're going to set our altitude. So the autopilot up here, you got your course, your speed, your heading, your altitude. That's the engage autopilot, your speed, That's for your approach, your heading, navigation, altitude, vertical speed. Hopefully we don't have to talk too much about them, but I am going to scroll this altitude. If you look here, it's now changing. And I want to move that now to 1900. Sorry, 19,000. And there we go. So that is now going to be its target. We can flow on our flight director. So the aircraft will go up to this. It's going to go straight up for us, okay? Okay, so the APU is now on. There are no lights up above. Okay, you can just see that the green light here has come on. We can now, we go just a bit up here. I can now turn off the direct power because we're now running on engine power. Okay, so that is all good. Cruising altitude is fine. We're now going to set our trims and rudder. You can see now that they're perfect. They're in the green. That's neutral. We do need to change our stabilizer trim air. If you go over to your pad, you can see that our trim needs to be at 5.8. Okay, 5.8, which it pretty much is at. It's at 6. There you go. I've just changed the trim there, so 5.8. Now I have it matched to my joystick, so you will have to find the button for it because there is no trim wheel that I know of. Okay, so the trim is set. Everything else is set. Okay, we will set our flaps here to 8, which is 2 notches. Might as well while we're here. And we just make sure that we change this back to here. That's all well and good. And I'm just going to scroll out a little bit. There we go. So, I believe we're good for pushback here, guys. Now, pushback tug is here just in front of us. Okay, so we'll go back to our aircraft now. We're going to shut the doors. Our parking brake is set. So we are going to take off the chocks now, which will remove the power carts. And
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Yes, there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the captain and crew, welcome aboard this flight. We hope you enjoy flying with us. Before takeoff, we would like to encourage all passengers to watch our cabin crew display the safety features of the aircraft.
Okay, now that they've finished their little chat there, we can now ask for pushback. So we will activate our pushback. Apparently we're getting a full-on blown tug for this. Maybe that's realistic. Okay, so as you get pushback, you would normally start your engines. It's quite difficult to do both, but hang on, we'll see how we go. I assume he's just going to start pushing us back. Yep. Okay, so we'll take off our parking brake. What we're going to do, we're just going to do the pushback because I can't do it fast enough for what he will do and explain to you what we're looking for. So we'll get our pushback and then we will look for our takeoff. So we are taking off on the runway just here, 26 left. Okay, so that's the pushback stopped. I will insert our parking brake and we'll go back into the flight deck here. Okay, so to turn on your engines are very simple. You've got your fuel pumps already on. Now the one thing you've got to be careful here, this is your engine starter. Do not hit any of these switches here, otherwise your APU will turn off. And then you'll have to start the whole thing over again. So you're going to start with your right engine. So there's your stops and there's your starts. Very simple, right, left. We're going to press start right engine. We go down below here, we're going to look at the engines. You're going to see the N2. When the N2 hits 20, you need to hit the little red switch here, and we've got to manually move this to idle, okay? Otherwise the engine will not start. So once this hits about 20, there we go, it's pretty much on 20 now. We're going to hit the red, and I'm just going to drag it forward. There we go. It's now on idle. And you're going to see the engine is going to start coming to life. Okay, and we're going to do the same with engine left. We are looking for this to hit the 20%.
Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention as we display the safety features and procedures of the aircraft in case of an emergency. During an emergency, please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened.
And there you go, guys. That is you getting your aircraft turned on.
Cabin pressure, breathing masks will drop from the ceiling and should be placed over your head. If there is smoke in the cabin during the evacuation...
Okay, yeah, I don't have a good camera for this. Okay, so there are a few things here that we need to do as well. Yaw dampener, stabilizer trim. You could have done that before pushback, really. Okay, as well as that, you're going to make sure you want to put this to on, which is all good. And then the last little thing, whatever you're squawking, you'll put in here. 2000 is fine. TCAS is on auto anyways. And Nav 1, again, like I said, we'll talk about this later on cruise. But yeah, so once you've done your stab and your yaw dampener, you click them. We're pretty much good for taxi here now. Engines are now stabilized, so what we can here now do is turn off our APU, and we're now running on the engine power. The generators here are already on, so you don't have to worry about them. Okay, taxi lights here, so let's throw on our taxi lights. We've got a very short taxi, and then we've got quite a few bits and pieces that we need to do for the taxi. So lift, park and brake. Now the best way to taxi, you want the engine to be around 30, okay? That's probably about max. This aircraft should taxi at around 15 miles an hour or 15 knots. So around 30, generally thereabout gives it to you, depending on what you're using. Could be easy, can be a little bit difficult. Now the one thing you're going to see here is the pink lines. So that's giving us a guide. If we're going to do our own departure out here manually, that's what we're aiming for, and that will give us our vertical speed that we're aiming for as we depart out. And then we'll talk about the autopilot once we get up. Once you've cleared 1,000 feet, you can engage the autopilot if you wish. It is completely up to you guys. We'll fly this out a little bit because we've got quite a bit of a straight before we make the turn. So all is good. There you go, taxi. Just bring the engine down a little bit. We've already set our flaps, which is nice. Should be a nice departure here out of Gatwick. Nice easy flight. Hopefully this tutorial is helping you guys. Hopefully. Like, I'm not the most experienced, like I said, with the CRJ. This is just literally going off my prior knowledge from kind of FSX. I do suggest you do look at the checklist that it does give you. It'll probably give it to you in the right order. Some of you might be tearing your hair out right now and writing me hate comments. Yeah, look, it is what it is. Okay, so we're just coming to the end of the taxi before we join the runway. So what we're going to do is just put on the brakes and we're going to do our final checklist. Okay, so from here, taxi lights will now go off. Your strobe lights now go on because you're on the runway. Strobe lights only go on at the runway. Navigation lights on. Logos and wings, if it's dark or poor visibility, you'd put these on, but we're okay at the moment. It's a lovely day out here. Okay, landing lights are now on. Nose light is on, okay? That is your final checklist. You already have your other lights already set. Everything is good to go. As we do climb out, when you do want to engage your autopilot, you'll put on your nav, your speed, and then this. Okay, now, you do have to manually control your speed, but not until you get to your cruising altitude, okay? So what we will aim here for, you're looking for your second click. So 1 click, 2 clicks, that's your toga. It will say toga here in green. Spoilers on automatic, reverse thrusters. You'd put them on for takeoff just in case you needed them. So you can arm them, okay? And in case you needed to emergency stop. And as well as that, the one last thing you need to do is the X-Flow auto override. Up here in the middle, You got to make sure that is now on. Checklist complete, and we are now good for takeoff. Now with this aircraft, she will try and take off herself, nose down to around 80 to 90 knots. Make sure you point your nose down. As soon as you get a positive rate, gear up. And it will tell you when your slats and flaps. You'll see the bars will come up here for your slats and flaps. Again,
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has advised that we are now cleared for takeoff.
okay, so we are rotating at 130. I find it you need to go a little bit more if you can, because the aircraft she does need a bit more than what it gives you. Okay. Engine's up to 50%. They've stabilized nicely. Yep. Okay, nose down, up to toga. We heard the click. Okay, we can just check that quickly down below. No, it's on climps. The second click. There we go. Toga has now appeared. Nose still down though, guys. Make sure you point that nose down, otherwise she'll try and take off. Okay, we're now hitting our V speeds, V1, and slowly start to rotate. Try and follow your vertical speed indicator here. Gear up. First notch of slaps already up.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
Just ignore that. Okay, so all you're going to do here is follow your flight director. And what we will do is a little bit jumpy, is throw on our navigation, our speed, and our autopilot. You can see now the speed. You see that the speed's engaged itself now to what it needs to be, 249. And there we go. You can see now that she's going to climb FMS 1, 249. So she's now bringing herself back under, because that's the speed she should be under 10,000 feet. Yeah, sorry, that's a little bit messy when you're trying to talk and hold the sticks and do everything at the same time. So there you go, she's now taken off, and you can see that she's going to follow this the way she's supposed to. Don't panic. Like I said, if it looks a little bit broken, that's all good. All we've done is hit the nav, our speed, and engine. We're already climbing through 7,000 feet. Obviously, if you're using ATC, that can be a little bit different, of course. Now, the one thing I also forgot to do is reset our heading. Every time this aircraft makes a turn, you have to press the middle button of the heading bug there to realign the heading. Something that I have to get used to doing. I do forget. Reverse thrusters will now be turned off. And that's it, guys. We're now turning around. We're here through at already at 10,000 feet. We'll now turn off our landing lights as well. Quite a pretty takeoff. Nice out here. We've already turned away from Gatwick. There's Gatwick. She's climbing through the sky as we speak. And doing what she's supposed to do. So under the 10,000, she would stay at the 249. And you can see if she's constrained or whatever, it will keep an eye on itself. But the climb profile is okay. Climbing at 249 is absolutely fine anyways. Okay, now we're above the 10,000. We can now go up to 290. It's good enough speed. While she heads up to 19,000 feet. Look, we're not going very high today. We already knew that. Okay, that is our checklist complete. Up now until we get to cruise. So what we will do now, as the aircraft is doing what it needs to do, I want to just talk about the ILS. No, not you. Okay, if you're very close to that and you use your scroll wheel, it does change that. Okay, so we need to put in our ILS frequency for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now serving sandwiches.
Okay, and she's serving sandwiches already, which is always good to know. Okay, so go out of this. I'm just looking at my charts on another screen. Okay, the ILS frequency for 5 right is 11155. Okay, so in the recall, you're going to click it. The top knob does the little one, and that should be 55. And the bottom one does the bigger number there. Okay, once you're happy, if you click it, it's now going to make it the active. Okay, 11155, that is our ILS. That's it. That's all we need to do now for the ILS. That buzzer, don't panic, that means we're 1,000 feet away from our climbing altitude. And then we're going to show you what I mean. You can see now that we're already starting to raise our speed. So you need to start taking some of that back a little bit. Okay, the reason why I put myself at 290 is that is the marker I'm now going to try and keep hold of. You can see I'm manually controlling the throttles. You have to. I'm just going to try and get it to hold there or thereabouts. Now, it all depends on the wind. If it gets windy, you know, this can go up and down. Okay, if you get a tailwind, it's going to speed up, vice versa. Okay, so look, you can see that I'm just playing with the throttles. You can see I'm moving here just a little bit. Once it kind of gets to where you're happy, it doesn't have to be dead on, but look, as long as it stays there or thereabout, I'm happy. Hopefully you guys would be happy with that too. Okay, we're now at cruise. I said we're not flying very high today. It's a very short flight. It'll be done very, very soon. Okay, so to know when your top of descent is, we go into our legs page and we go to the next page. You can see that we're going to stay at 19. Oh, and now we finally drop. So ELVOS. That's our top of descent. Okay. Now, if we go into the MFD menu, you can see here it gives us a choice what you want to put on. If you put on your VNAV, these waypoints now will give you the constraints, etc. Now, we should have been flying at 5,000. If we were ATC, we would have stayed at 5,000 until LAM, and then we would have gone off. Because there's no ATC and it's just a tutorial, we went straight up. So bear that in mind. If the ATC had given you, and your constraints and your transition was 5,000, which it was here, we would only should have climbed to 5,000. Only once we cleared that point with LAM, we could have gone up to our 19,000. But like I said, no ATC, we just go straight up today for this tutorial. Very, very simple. If we go into the direct info, you're going to see here, this is the information we want. It gives you your constraints, your flight levels, etc. So look, we really shouldn't have gone up to flight level until we were at Wheeling. Not until we passed LAM, like I said. That's usual transition out of Gatwick. That's just normal. But again, it's just a tutorial. I'm not playing with ATC on, it's just to show you guys. But if you want a bit of extra realism into it, that's what would have happened, okay? So she is following the flight plan. We've got quite a little bit to go until we need to do anything. So all I'm going to do is manage my speed through the rest of this, and I will join you just before top of descent, because at the moment there isn't much else that we need to look at. Okay guys, so look, we're getting very close to our top of descent. So just like I showed you before, if you haven't done this already, what you want to do is go into your MFD menu, change it to VNAV, and go to your direct into C. As you can see here, it's going to start showing us, so we'd have to have a vertical speed of 800 to get down to the next constraint. So this is actually going to tell you, so this aircraft doesn't have its own auto kind of management of altitude. You have to do it yourself, okay? So the one thing that has brought up by doing this is you can see here now, top of descent, we're very close now, 18 nautical miles. You can see TOD is in green, okay? That's one thing that is now done for this. And it gives us a lot of other waypoints. So we've got 3 nautical miles, 8 nautical miles. So you can now see what we need to get up to and what we need to do So once we do hit the top of the descent, it wants us, okay, it says 900 now, so it's always changing. So we're going to have a vertical speed of about 900, should get us down. What I suggest is just make sure you are down. It's better to be down and under than over, okay? So what we'll do, we'll probably put it down to whatever it says and we'll see what it does. We're very close to the top of the descent. If you haven't done so already, you'd want to put in your borough for the airport you are flying into. Now there are many ways you can get that if you want to get it. Now how I get mine is off my own Discord, which I'm doing right now. So if you aren't in the Discord, you should come join us. We do have a meter bot, and it'll give you up to date. 1034 is actually what we need for hit. Okay, so into the borough hit. 1034 is what we want. Now the one thing it's going to do is going to kick out my altitude select. There you go, 1034. It's okay, it'll sort itself out. Okay, so top of the descent. We're literally just about to hit now, any minute now. Now, because we are at 1900 and it's an altitude mode, we can actually now click vertical speed. Now, as long as we don't change that vertical speed up and down, the aircraft will stay at whatever it was, which is holding here at 19.1. That is fine. Okay, we do want to put our NDA, so down here again our NDA, which you'll see, it'll flash up here in a second. We click it in. NDAs today is 250. Okay, so we're not D and H because we're not doing a category 3. 250 is the MDA for this runway, that's fine. We're about to hit top of descent, as you can see. There we go, we're literally crossing over. What I will do very quickly is just bring in this a little bit so you can see. There you go, here's our top of descent coming flashing by very, very quickly. If we look back at our screen here now, it does say that we have to be minus 1,300 to get to the next constraint, okay? And that's okay, so we're now hitting top of descent. So we now want to use our vertical speed. As you can see, as I'm scrolling, it'll give you a minus. I'm going to come off the throttles. There you go, back onto our vertical speed. So it will tell us what we need to do now because we've gone past it. So it does say that we now need to be minus 1.4. Be handy if we set our altitude down. Okay, so yeah, altitude has to be set down. I thought I already did it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to bring it down to 5,000 for now. And you can see now, if we click on our vertical speed, it's now in place. So we now need to play catch up. So this says we have to go 1.9, nearly 2,000 feet. So we will put that up to 2.1. And we're going to come off the throttles, and you can see we're now starting to descend. Now what I do recommend is that you put the altitude to 10,000. I thought I already put it at 10,000, but obviously look, you miss these things sometimes. It's now down to 5,000. We just got to make sure once we do hit 10,000, because it could level you off, you see, and then you can bring down your speed. You have to be under 250 knots at 10,000, okay? So again, we can keep an eye on this. You can see there's a little blue dot and a snowflake. That means if you're high or low on the glide slope, and this little blue dot here is what you want to show your vertical speed. So look, we're holding onto it. It's doing okay. The snowflake is not disappearing. So it's kind of like, you know, your ILS system. You're looking for this snowflake. You want to keep on that snowflake as close to here as you can. Keep an eye on your little blue dot. It says now that we're going a bit fast. We can bring it back up a little bit. That's our altitude again. So there you go. All you're doing now is matching this and that snowflake, and that matches what's in your FMC. It's that simple. Okay, if we go back to our charts, 3000 is where we'll need to be for the ILS. That's fine. Okay, so remember, altitude down. You know what? Maybe we should put the 10,000 so we can make sure our speeds are lower. Let's do it properly. Let's do this the way it should be done. This aircraft is now going to hold at 10,000 feet once it gets there. The blue dot and this, we're a little bit high, low I mean. So if we wanted to, we can slow our rate of descent, not our altitude. And yeah, so all you're looking for here, instead of having to keep looking backwards and forwards, just keep this arrow needs to be on that blue dot. As you can see, we're now descending faster than we need to be. So we can move that up. We're now 1.5, that's a bit low. There we go. Look, we're bang on the snowflake, so we're bang on where we need to be on our descent path to Manchester. Again, in case you're skipping parts here, make sure your ILS frequency is tuned in. 111.55, you have to put in here, and then it transfer across. 111.55, which is our ILS. We've already done our MDA, which is here, and we've done our borough as well already. Again, you don't have to do that till you're around 10,000. It just depends. I like to do it nice and early so I don't forget it. And then landing speeds, we already pressed the set all. So just like your takeoff speeds, it's the same. Okay, so we should be landing about 136 today. That's the idea. If that happens or not, who knows. Okay, so we are still descending faster than we need to be, but that is no problem. We're holding actually a good speed. This speed is okay. It means we don't have to slow down too much when we hit the 10,000. Again, you have to manage the speed. I don't really have any speed on. The engines are just kind of idling. The snowflake. So we're like under the glide slope, which is good. It's better to be a little bit under than over. Okay, so we don't want to be chasing ourselves. Again, looking at the blue line here. And this snowflake, that's all we need to do. It does say that we can probably bring that up a little, one more notch here. Slow our rate down a little bit. And yeah, look, it's going to bring us down to our 3,000, exactly where we need to be. This is working out very well, guys. Okay, we're making a turn, so you make sure you press your heading. There was one thing about speed. Once you get to your cruising speed, you're supposed to turn it into a Mach. If you just click in the speed, it's no big deal if you do or you don't. That's if you want full realism to this aircraft. Of course, we all know that's not something I've done. Okay, that's our warning. We're nearly down at 10,000 feet. We're actually nicely already at 250. I want to bring it down just a little bit under while we continue making our descent. As you can still see, we're below the snowflake, so we have time. And look, we're doing okay here as well. The aircraft is going to start leveling out, as you can see, because we're now hitting that 10,000, which says now that we need to speed up. That's fine. I want to actually drop our speed is what I'm trying to do first. Again, we can move this marker down. That's what we should be doing as well. Move the marker down so you know roughly where you want to be. At some point very, very soon, I want to be coming in around 220. And look, that's fine. We now know that the vertical speed, which is back engaged. Okay, we're going to put this down to our 3,000. Quite hard to see the little numbers there, but there you go. There's 3,000 here on the screen. And then we're going to engage our vertical speed. And let's drop again. So we're going to idle our speed here. It's a good speed for us. 222, 221. That we've got plenty of time here. We do need to get a little bit faster down. .8 is not quite catching it yet. There you go, 19. Speed is creeping up, so I am idling our speed again, as you can see here. And we're now back under that snowflake. This is fine. Coming into our final approaches here, guys. So look, if we just move this range out a little bit, we can see that we don't actually have that long now before our final. And in we go. So we are doing the last little bit that we need to do. Keep an eye on that speed. We don't want to put flaps down too early either, but just make sure we keep an eye. Look, we're well under that glide path. It actually says that we can now move this back up. There you go, 1.4. 1.4 is still more than enough, I believe. Well under this snowflake. Okay, so I've had to turn on heading mode. For some reason, it's just stopped following our vertical speed, which is okay. I don't know why it's not following the FMC. It seems all fine here. So look, we're going to vector ourselves in by the looks of it. So yeah, I'm just going to use the heading now to just give myself plenty of time to intercept here. We're still climbing down, so all I'm using is the heading to follow that. I'm going to try and throw back on the nav. Yeah, no, it doesn't want to go where we want it to go. That's fine. Okay, flaps 1. We're going to continue now, start bringing down our speeds as we're coming into finals. I'm not sure why it won't follow that last bit. Hopefully it's going to intercept this ILS, otherwise this tutorial is not going to be going too well. So basically these things happen, you know, we've got to prepare for them. Okay, we're still dropping, our vertical speed is still more than fine according to this. Not sure how much of that I believe anymore, but anyways, we're doing good. We're still dropping down. 3000 is our intercept, which is fine. Okay, flaps 2. So again, guys, a little bit of a problem. All I'm using is now my heading to try and follow. Go up around here. Once we get to here, I'm going to turn on our approach mode and it should click in. Now, if you click approach mode too early, guys, it's going to start turning now. And it won't give us enough time for the runway. But don't click your approach until you're way up here to give yourself enough time to come in, okay? So we are under the 10,000, by the way. We should have had our landing lights on, which I forgot to do under 10,000 feet. My fault. So yeah, landing lights are on. Okay, reverse thrusters, we will arm on final. Okay, we're looking okay. Not gone perfectly. Okay, so we're just going to follow our heading. Once we literally get to about here, we'll turn on our approach mode, okay? Okay, we're now dropping below that 180 that I want. Next notch of flaps. Okay, I am now starting to put a bit of engine power back into it. We don't want it to slow too much, but still bringing ourselves down now for our landing speeds. Okay, spoilers on automatically armed, that's all fine. Okay, next notch of flaps. All is looking good, our heading is fine. Okay, we are following our heading, but what you now need to do is change your nav source, okay? You're going to flick that to your localizer, because that is what is connected to this, okay? So localizer mode is now set. Once I get towards that star, because we're going to follow the heading, because it's still following my heading right now currently. We're down pretty much at our landing speeds now, guys, so all we're doing here now is just making sure we stay around there with the engines. We're dropping below our 3000. You can see the diamond for our localizer. It's now come into play. Okay, so we know it's going to be active. It's all looking good. Didn't follow what I was supposed to follow, but these things do happen. Once I've activated it, all we have to do is thinking about landing it. So like I said, you don't want to do this too early, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Okay, what we will do now is we will now hit the approach button. And the aircraft should hit the localizer. Not quite what I was hoping. Okay, so the FMC's really knocked itself out here. Again, we're not going to panic. We're going to go and we're going to make a turn. Going to put our heading mode on. Okay, flying into Manchester, guys, maybe not always the best thing we can be doing. Okay, we're very low. The aircraft has had a mind of its own, unfortunately. But look, I'm showing you how to save it. Put it that way. Okay, let's try approach mode again. 111.55 is definitely the right frequency. It is. Should be our active. You can see the glide slope indicator here. In principle, what I've shown you should work. In theory, it doesn't always go the way you want it to go. Okay, but it is holding here now. The localizer is there. Okay, let's flick our gear down. Flaps are already full. We're just going to manually bring this in. Not the way I wanted to do it, but I don't know why runway 5 right does not want to work. There is our runway. Yeah, a bit disappointed. Just wonder if I flicked it in now.
500.
No. Couldn't tell you.
400.
Well, we have control of the aircraft. I can see the runway. It's just a little bit this way. We're well under glide slope. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Look, the plane's only just come out. There was some stories of some issues. Obviously, we found one. It does not like the ILS going into... As soon as it stopped following the navigation, I knew there was going to be an issue. But look, it's savable. Look, you never give up. There's loads that we can do. There's plenty of time. We could have circled. We could have held.
500.
Okay, so what we're doing here, I'm trying to line this up now to the runway, which we're getting there. And I'm just keeping an eye on my speed, trying to keep it around that 140 on the pink. And start bringing ourselves in. We're already down at 500. So we're well under that glide slope.
400.
We're going to come in quite flat here, by the way, guys. Very, very flat. But basically what I showed you should have shown you how to ILS. Unfortunately, there is just something wrong with this runway, and which means I'll have to do this tutorial all over again, which obviously I will do. Okay, we're going to start easing off engines once we hear about 40, 30. We're already very low in. And also make sure very quickly that you arm your reverse thrusts on your approach. Okay, I'm coming in.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Little flare. And down. Now, it wasn't the smoothest because all of that panicked me. I didn't go through my checklists. But unfortunately, these things can happen. Reverse thrust is in. Okay, we're under 80, so manually braking now.
Please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop. Please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop.
Okay, I'm just going to stop the aircraft there. Okay, so once it stopped following the navigation, there was always going to be a problem with this ILS. So unfortunately, it didn't go the way that we wanted it to go. But what I showed you is the correct procedure. So you change this to your localizer, which it would have been on. Once you armed your approach, it should have attacked the glide path. But unfortunately, there was something wrong with this approach. This star, it did not like. Okay, I'm not going to waste the video. It seems a bit pointless now that we've just gone through all of that. But hopefully it gives you an understanding of the basics on how it's supposed to work. What I might do is do a separate tutorial just on the landing, again, just to go over the landing. But basically, that's all we had to do. You put on your approach for your nav source. You click your approach. It would normally attack your glide slope, but this was even dropping out of the sky anyways. My speeds weren't holding very well, but you know, I was doing too much. That's what happens when you're overworked in the cockpit. That's why, you know, you have two people flying aircraft, really. But look, all of it worked out pretty well other than that. We still landed. I can tell you what the landing rate was if it interests people. Minus 160 was the landing rate, because I do have ACARs on at the moment. So yeah, look, it wasn't a bad landing. We saved what we had. At this point, of course, you would now turn off your landing lights. You'll throw on your taxi lights. And you will turn off your strobe lights. And we're good to taxi. What we'll do, we will taxi over to here while we discuss what just happened. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, these things do happen in Microsoft Flight Simulator. They happen a bit too often for my liking. What's going on here? Okay, we're going to retract all our flaps. Yeah, it's a big shame that the navigation just stopped working. It's really weird. What I will do off camera now is actually try Manchester again. And also the other little thing that I did forget, like I said, was the thrust reversers. We can turn them off now again. Make sure you turn them on. Otherwise your reverse thrust will not work. Bit of a sloppy taxi. Sorry guys. But landing was decent, considering it was a long landing. We missed the markers, but look, there was nothing we can do. We were screwed from the moment it was all going wrong. So this aircraft, it lands quite flat. It does float. Don't be scared to float a little bit. It does happen. Usually, you know, it'd hit the glide path. It'd start descending with the markers. It wasn't going to do any of it for us today. Then you just disengage your AP with this, and it would have been that simple. Bring yourself in for landing at a better height and stuff than I did. Now, I said I wouldn't worry about it too much. Hopefully it does help you with the basics. I know it was a bit crap at the end, but look, in a way it was kind of an interesting watch. Things were going wrong, and we just savoured what we had. We kept an eye on it. There was a big workload though, but we did it. We came down for a nice landing here in Manchester. We're going to park up the aircraft just here now on the left, and we're going to call this video it for the day. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. If you have, please make sure you do like the video. Probably a big dislike because it went completely wrong at the end. Make sure you do come into the Discord if you have done so already. If you want to come fly for us at simplyconnectva.com, you're more than welcome to come fly with us as well. We've got about 65 pilots now. We're looking really, really good for that. Trying to aim. I gave myself a target of 100. So look, we'll see how we go with that. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I play a lot of simulations. Transport related simulation is kind of what I'm into. So planes, trucks, buses, trains. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but you know, please do subscribe to the channel. Once we hit 5,000 subscribers, we're not far away. I will be doing a big giveaway. So if you want to stay tuned for that as well, please do make sure you do subscribe down below to the channel. Okay, parking brake is set. We're going to go in here now. It's very easy to shut down your engines. You can just press these two here. Okay, so you got to lift the little red switch, and then you can manually move these to shut off. Okay, and that will shut off your whole aircraft. We're going to get loads of warnings now because all the power is going to go, but I'm okay with that. So again, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully this has helped. And if it has, that's good. If it hasn't, I'm sorry. Hopefully, like I said, I will go over this as doing another one very, very shortly to see if what was going on with that landing. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.